Don't mind the shirt. I decided to do two videos in one day, so let's get right into it. I'm going to be weighing in on the Lakers struggle and laying my opinion down on Mike Brown. Uh, this season has just been pretty strange so far with a 1-4 record as well as the preseason wins. And, normally that's not a cause for concern because the last two times we won the championship, we went 0-7 in the preseason and 0-8 in the preseason, respectively. So, I wasn't too worried about that, but this year in particular, it just seems to be different than all the other cases. So, I'm as of right now, I don't know why, but it just feels different. First off, with the Princeton offense, it works really well, and I don't have any problem with it. But with that being said, it only works really well when it's run properly. And for the most part, I mean, we don't really do it all the time. Like for whatever reason, we'll maybe run it for a quarter or a half or something, and then abandon it the rest of the way, which is strange to me. I mean, if you watch the games and pay attention, you see Kobe producing at a very efficient rate. Granted, in the Utah game, that wasn't the case, but, it can't be expected to continue forever. But, I mean, so far we've seen a very efficient Kobe. And then also, out of that, we get a lot of nice high-low sets with Gasol and Dwight. And we're even seeing I dubbed it the Beauty and the Beast law from Gasol to Dwight, and it just looks exactly like it did last year with him and Bynum. So that's something really positive to see. But at the same time, for whatever reason, they ditch it or they don't run it properly, and I can akin that to chemistry problems, just because for the most part, they'll run a set, and then let's say it was like, for example, in the Utah game, there was a play where Kobe got a screen from Dwight, and Dwight was wide open, and he signaled for a lob, but Kobe threw a chest pass, and the ball sailed out of bounds, which is just another, indication of bad chemistry problem. But, I mean, the offense is fine with me. It's the other things that are going wrong, which leads me right into the defense. For one thing, it's been horrible. Absolutely horrible. And I can say that, hopefully I can say eventually in time it'll get better, just because Dwight's not 100% yet. But there's really no excuse for looking this bad. Like, we have Mike Brown, who's pensioned as a defensive coach, but he cannot get his team to play defense. And that is a very strange problem to have. Normally it would be the defensive coach can't get them to do their offense efficiently because they only specialize on defense. But this is just a very perplexing case altogether. And with that said, that rolls right into Mike Brown. Now, I got a lot of things to say about Mike Brown. And for the starting, I think the biggest thing that has been a problem is his rotations. His rotations are absolutely horrible. Like, ever since he's been here, granted last year we had a very, very awful bench. This year's is a little bit better, though as of right now they're looking just about the same. And you could attribute that to his rotations. Like, for example, we brought in Jody Meeks as to be Kobe's backup, and Jody Meeks does not play really much at all. Like, he's only shot in 5 threes and made 2 of them shooting 40%. I think he only averages about 5 minutes or something like that. And he was brought in specifically for taking minutes off Kobe's hands, and he's not playing him at all. He even decided to move Metta World Peace to the shooting guard before he decided to put on Jody Meeks. He said he was going for a longer defensive lineup for the second unit, but come on, man. Use your personnel to their maximum potential. The rotations single-handedly screw up the games for the most part, because when you're switching in these different lineups and things like that, you're accounting the people but not what they do. For example, you can't put a second unit on there with Steve Blake, Metta World Peace, Devin Ebanks, Jordan Hill, and Pau Gasol. Like, there's no playmakers besides your big man. And also, there's no one that can really create their own shot in that lineup as well, because Metta has been prone to over-dribbling this season, and we don't want that at all. So I don't get why he's not taking advantage of that. There's no one really to spread the floor because we don't have a team full of shooters. So he's not really maximizing what he has and using it effectively. Not to mention the fact that he still has Antoine Jamison trying to play a swing position when knowing he's not that great at defense. So he's playing him against people who run him off screens, which is at least one of the hardest things to do in basketball is chase people around screens. So having an older guy chasing younger people around screens like that, it's really not a recipe for success at all. So also, for whatever reason, he can't get the team to buy into what he's preaching. Like the effort and scratch that. The team is too talented of a team to be playing this badly, and you could say it falls obviously on the players' hands to go out and play, but at the same time, if they have a great relationship with their coach, that's an intangible that can single-handedly change the game. It's way too easy for him to be out-coached, and then let alone with whatever he's preaching not really getting through to the players. That is not good at all, and it's been that way since last year. It was looking to continue this year, and I don't know. I don't see how he could have easily won us a championship. Like with your being defensive minded and you can't get them to play defense, the wacky rotations and just not getting them to buy into what you're preaching, that's not good at the NBA level, especially with the team as talented as the one we have. And then, as the day I'm making this video, he was fired, which is big news. I wanted him out of there, but not because he was he just looked I wouldn't say he was incompetent because he's an NBA head coach, but he just didn't look like he knew what he was doing really. Like I know he was thrust into this situation to replace Phil Jackson, which is definitely not an easy task at all. But even so, it just really looked like at certain points he didn't know what he was doing. So I'm all for the move to fire him. And granted, I don't like seeing people lose their jobs like this, but it's a business, so you gotta do what you gotta do. And also the list of potential candidates to replace him at the moment, I just looked it up, and it was Phil Jackson and Mike D'Antoni. I don't really have anything to say about Phil because his records and his work speaks for itself. Mike D'Antoni, the 7 seconds or less offense, it sounds good for the second unit, but with the team full of starters and Nash being older, I don't think that would really work out for our starting group. But I feel like that would help our secondaries, the bench players produce more and at least get their average up to somewhere about 25, 30 points per game. That would be great. But he's not, as Mike Brown was a quote-unquote proven defensive coach, he is a proven offensive coach that struggles with defense. So I don't know how that would really work out here. Maybe, if he gets the offense clicking on high cylinders, maybe it'll turn into one of those teams where the offense leads into the defense, So, we'll see. As of right now, those are the two leading candidates. There are also talks of Shaw and Jerry Sloan, because Jerry Sloan showed interest in the team earlier this week before they went to go play Utah. And he said he was interested, and I'm all for that, pick and rolling teams to death. And he's a proven coach that knows how to win. Granted, he doesn't have a championship, but the man does know how to win. But, there are other intangibles going along behind the scenes. And in case if we couldn't get Phil, we could get Brian Shaw, who could possibly be a younger Phil, because he's going to come back, and obviously he's going to instill the triangle offense. And he's about 20-something, I think 21 years younger than Phil, so he could definitely be a long-term signing, because I think Phil is 67 and Jerry Sloan is 70 and Mike D'Antoni is like 61. So, Brian Shaw could be the potential long-term guy. So, they're struggling. We got the interim coach tonight for this game against the Warriors, and I'm gonna go head off to go watch the game now. But I mean, we'll see. I'll probably make another update video just to see who our coach is and things like that. And I mean, I was worried that I feel like management made the correct move. So it's just up to them to bring in the proper coach and maybe make one or two moves, because I feel like we could obviously bolster the small forward position and the backup point guard position, because Dante West is still out there, and they cut CDR for some reason when we need long athletic scorers or some younger scorers and stuff like that. So I mean, we'll see. In Mitch we trust. I'll just trust management to do what they've always done and come through and give us the necessary pieces to win the championship. So with that being said, this is the end of the video. Leave a comment if you got an opinion or anything on it. Hit me up if you want to talk about it some more. Alright, next time guys. Later days.